Today on the Vocal Minority Report, I'll tell you why I was shocked to hear what a prosecution witness had to say. More body cam footage was played outside the presence of the jury after one juror was almost removed. We now know exactly how Botham Jean and Amber Guyger spent that fateful day of September 6, 2018, and we finally get a glimpse into Guyger's apartment. Hey, what is good? Sorry for the abrupt ending on the music there. That's the dope sounds of my boy Shy Wright. Shout out to my man for the music that you will hear sometimes throughout. And if you're an artist and you have music locally and you want it played, maybe on this show or the podcast, send it to me. You can email me, vocal, V-O-C-A-L, report at gmail.com, or message me. I'm Melvin Glasgow on Facebook. All these posts that I'm doing are made public, and if you're really cool, you can be my friend. Only on Facebook, though. But no, so, all right, let's jump into today, the trial. This is the second time I'm having to do this or record this because I messed up earlier and somehow didn't hit live or record. So hopefully everything is working now. Let me just double check. All right, so everything appears to be like it should be today. So let's go ahead and get into it. I've described today as a boring, action-packed day. Boring in the sense that not a whole lot happened, especially at the beginning of the trial. The trial resumed with Major Armstrong from the Texas Rangers on the stand as he was last evening. But interestingly, the judge said before the day started that a female juror had gone up to the bailiff at the end of day two and said that she had a professional relationship with Armstrong. In her work, she is a fraud investigator. He's a Texas Ranger. It makes sense. So the judge wanted to make sure that neither side had an issue with that, and they, in fact, quizzed the juror. I'm assuming in the judge's chambers. I'm not sure where they quizzed her, but there was no, obviously that was off camera. They came back. Defense gets right into resuming their cross-examination of Major Armstrong, which was really, really interesting, albeit boring, because, there was a lot of technical aspects of procedure, as I keep saying, and then there was also just the line of questioning. But it got interesting, though, when he was looking at pictures and getting to the point of speculating or giving his opinion on where Botham Jean was when he was shot. So that led to lots of talk, objection, and the judge asking that Officer Lee's body cam footage be played again outside the presence of the jury, because she wanted to see exactly what was happening, wanted to see how much commotion was happening around Mr. John, things of that nature, when they were trying to save his life. So the unfortunate part, other than we had to see that again, because she had the prosecution rewind, play it several times, up and through the part where Mr. John is struggling to survive when Officer Blair and Officer Lee are trying to save his life. You can see his body there. Unfortunately, the family was still in the courtroom. Judge didn't even think about it, and she did apologize after the fact. And if you've seen the pictures of the family, you can tell that they're heartbroken. In seeing that video, they weren't there when it was shown the first time when Officer Lee was testifying. So that video happened, and we all watched it. And then when they came back, the judge. When they came back, there was still more talk, and the defense was able to proffer or get into the questions that they would ask Mr. Armstrong or Major Armstrong on his opinion as it relates to position of the shoes, where John was when he was shot, things of that nature. So the conversation went, and I'll play a brief clip of what Armstrong said. But one of the things that he said, he was asked by Rogers, I believe, do you believe Amber Guyger was responding to a burglary call? His response was, quote, yes, I believe that was her perception. He was also asked, was she aware of an intruder? He said there was no evidence that John was sitting on the couch when he was shot, and that Guyger's actions seemed reasonable because she believed a burglar was in her apartment. Now, I've mentioned this yesterday. I mentioned it online. I keep mentioning that Botham Jean was not a intruder. I understand that the defense has to position him as such in order to defend their client, but we know that he was not an intruder. He was not a burglar. This was not a burglary. He was sitting in his home. We know what he was doing. And it's just really unfortunate that we all have to keep hearing that. His family has to keep hearing that. But I'll tell you that, luckily, the judge did not allow any of that testimony, as damning as it may seem, to be said in front of the jury. So what does that mean? That means that all of us spectators get to speculate and argue and about her guilt or innocence as it relates to this one investigator's opinion, because I keep going back to, pretty sure there's been like, let's say 3 or 4 other police officers up who have mentioned that they would follow a different set of procedures had it been them. So despite what he says, and let me play that brief clip right now of Armstrong and his.
I believe that it was reckless or criminally negligent based on the totality of the investigation and the circumstances and facts.
Okay, I was kind of talking. Let me try that again.
I believe that it was reckless or criminally negligent based on the totality of the investigation and the circumstances and facts.
Okay, so he doesn't believe that it was. Well, you heard the clip. He doesn't believe that it was negligent based on her actions and what she thought was happening at the time. Sorry, I'm having all kinds of technical issues here. So powerful, but the jury didn't get to see it, and I think that's okay because this is a court hearing, right? So the judge has the discretion to decide what the jury should and should not hear. Now, I tell you, so I think that, both sides are 1 for 1 at this point, because yesterday the defense sure got a break when none of the Mike Mata footage, Amber Guyger talking to the Dallas Police Association president, who's a sergeant, none of that got any play yesterday. We just got to see it. So I feel like they're kind of 1 for 1. I think the judge is being relatively fair and equitable throughout, and that's just kind of where we stand now. So, all right, moving on. There was the next major development, or next thing that happened, was a digital expert from the DA's office came up next, and I believe her name was last name was Noble. And what she did and what she does is collect data points, extract data from electronics to be able to mark exactly what happened on certain days. So she's able to say pretty definitively each movement by Botham Jean and Amber Guyger on September 6, 2018, as well as some of the neighbors. And I'm not going to zoom in or highlight on these images here, but you can see they're very detailed. I believe the blue is Guyger, and I think the white is John, if I remember correctly. But you can see across the timeline how they mapped it out. They know exactly where she was. So at question, is what was going on with her. She had half of the conversation with Martin Rivera on her way home. So really at issue is the actions from 9:55:21 to 9:59:19. Because there's a 3 minute and 4 some second gap between the end of the call with Martin Rivera and the incoming call with the police department. So in that time, that is what happened when she hung up that phone, walked from the garage, and then blew Botham Jean the hell away. That's what the jury has to come up with. That's what we're talking about here. But I think if you look at these plot points, for lack of a better term, they're helpful in establishing state of mind and, showing, again, she's not some overworked, about to pass out person who should not be able to function. She drove home. She backed her truck in. There's numerous pictures, starting with yesterday. The prosecution is showing her where she parked, her vantage point. Her truck is looking directly at the breezeway from when she would have gotten out of her truck. So there's a lot of additional context clues that she should have known, right? So that evidence is pretty powerful. After that, you had 4 neighbors, witnesses who were in the complex, obviously in a decent proximity to John, some of which were able to observe Guyger in the hallway, and on that, the famous video we've seen, they were able to observe her there and her actions afterwards. Some of the phone calls, her being consoled, or another officer showing up and telling one of the young ladies to go back in her apartment, everything's okay. And that's what happened. When you see cops, don't you usually think everything is going to be okay? Even in the instance of, a neighbor seeing Guyger after shooting John, they're still seeing a uniformed police officer, giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? So all the neighbors testified that there was no sounds made or loud commands given. Guyger's contention still remains, she says hands, 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 something of that nature. I'm still troubled with, why is that the only thing she could say? This is a trained police officer. Is she that scary that she can't function by seeing a black man sitting on his couch? I mean, what, was she blown away a white guy, a woman? The way they make it sound, she may have. Now that part doesn't make her a murderer, but everything in totality does. And I think that's what we have to remember. People want to go back and forth and accuse me of using a race card. They want to say one of the neighbors, or some of the neighbors, a lot of the neighbors are black. If you look at the witnesses who have come up so far, these are young, black, professional people, for the most part. Not that professional matters, but what does that have to do with anything? They go to the wrong apartment. I told you the story yesterday that I've gone to a wrong apartment, but I've never shot anybody. And how many cops in America work every day, long hours, go home to an apartment complex that is built similarly to the Southside Flats? That's a new modern building, especially in an urban place, and they don't shoot anybody. So I said this in the one that got cut off, so for lack of me repeating what I already said, but I compared this mistake that folks keep talking about that Guyger made to recent another murderer, cop, Roy Oliver, who shot Jordan Edwards, a black teenager, unarmed, who was sitting in the backseat of a vehicle that was pulling off, and Edwards shot him in the head as the car pulled off. So my loose comparison is, was he fearful? Was he following his police training? Or did he make a mistake when he shot Edwards when he shouldn't have, because police are too quick to shoot, and he's got 15 years in jail for murder to think about it. So that's the comparison that I like to draw in this case. It's very, very loose. It's not the same. But the idea that police officers make mistakes and a mistake of facts, so what? You should be punished. And I'm not super concerned with what one investigator says per se, especially one that, according to Lee Merritt, who is an attorney for the family, initially told them that, not that he was on their side, I don't want to misquote, but basically the investigation did not lend itself to what he said in open court today. We'll leave it at that. So let's see. All right. Well, I'm going to keep this one short here because, like I said, this is the second attempt to do this episode. I don't think, I'm sure I left something out, so I appreciate your patience. Like the show, listen to it, leave a review, subscribe, check back with me here. We'll go live, and hopefully we won't have any more technical difficulties. All right. Well, holla at you later. Peace. Oh, wait, we can't go. Okay, see? I remember we saw inside Guyger's apartment for the first time. So let me show you that. Okay, here we go. Inside Guyger's apartment. You can see relatively how clean and neat it is compared to Botham Jean's. I'm not going to do a side-by-side. I'll show you here's here. So this is Botham Jean's apartment. This is Amber Guyger's apartment. You can see that there's no paintings on the wall. You can see that there's a table on the left entryway. Her TV setup is completely different. I can't even tell if there is a TV here in this living room on the wall. I don't see a large round ottoman. There's certainly no laptop or computer screen against this back window here. The kitchen counter has a distinct less amount of clutter. I mean, there's so many clues when I just look at this picture that show me that it's not her crib. So that was powerful to finally see inside her place, to just get an idea of what we're looking at. And again, see if it's reasonable what she did or didn't do. That's the question. Is it reasonable? So you can talk about reasonable doubt. I still personally have seen nothing to make me wane or waver. Now, there are some things that theoretically could be favorable to her if you're defending her for murder, but it does not pass the reason test with me. And some of the most damning stuff, like I said, has not been seen in front of the jury on both sides. So I think we're 1 for 1 there, and that kind of balances everything out. But let's just remember what's at stake here. And, you know, the unfortunate part is none of us as spectators, commentators, even legal experts really have any bearing on what's going to happen with the outcome of this case. So I appreciate you guys listening to me, giving my commentary. We'll continue to go live and hopefully not have any technical issues. So shoot me an email, vocalreport@gmail.com. The Vocal Minority Report is where you can find us on Facebook. Melvin Glasgow, follow me. All my posts are public about the case. I'll be updating it throughout the day, and I'll be going live, hopefully without any issues. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you later. Peace.